Section 28 of The Diary of a Russian Lady. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Shrimpfish. The Diary of a Russian Lady by Barbara Doukhovsky. Interlaken. Close to Interlaken, we took the train for about 10 minutes. Interlaken is situated in a narrow pass encircled by a range of sparkling white mountains, behind which rises the majestic Jungfrau. This coquettish little town seems to be specially built for tourists. There are almost nothing but hotels in the place. The room which we occupied at the Hôtel des Alpes was furnished Swiss style, with a cuckoo clock and cupboards in the walls. There were antimacassars everywhere, and 2 blue vases on the mantelpiece with everlasting flowers. On a small table lay a Bible and a hymn book. Next morning, when I looked out of our windows, I saw a wonderful sight. The snow-capped Jungfrau emerged from a mantle of clouds, a glittering, dazzling mass with a background of shimmering snow-clad mountains. It is most fortunate that the summit unveiled today, as it is only seen on rare occasions. Our excursion to the glaciers was arranged for 8 o'clock, and the conveyance that we had ordered the day before stood at the door of our hotel, a mountain chariot with horses jingling with bells. We set off in the gayest of spirits. Our driver cracked his whip, and away rolled the carriage. Soon we were hurrying along the valley road, and past meadows strewn with wild flowers. We took 3 hours to mount to the Hotel Eiger. On our way we met peasant girls with loaded baskets on their heads. On the slopes villagers in large straw hats were cutting down the grass, and women in bright-colored skirts were working in the potato fields. Here comes a procession of carts laden with blocks of ice procured from the glaciers, dragged by patient, sad-eyed oxen. In the distance the echo of an alpine horn and the cries of some peasants resounded. We overtook a peasant woman, jolted like a basket on the back of her mule. After an hour or 2 the road began to mount, and our tender-hearted driver climbed down from the seat and walked at the horses' heads, driving off the troublesome flies which stuck to his steeds. We crossed a tidy little village consisting of but one straggling street. The roofs of the houses are covered with lathings, with big stones laid over them in order that the wind should not scatter them about. Behind the rusty gates, flaxen-haired children stared at us. On the front of a tavern we saw the picture of a bear with the pleasant inscription, "Lait frais," written underneath. Close by, on the front of an hostelry, we read, "Les voyageurs qui descendent chez nous seront contents." The tourists who put up at our house will be contented. A year ago there was fearful damage done in the valley we were driving through. A huge block of rock fell down from the cliffs and hurled itself into the valley, destroying a house which was taken clear away. We had to pass that square stone that looked like a monument in the middle of the road. We wanted to stop before a wicket with a finger-post pointing to it, with the inscription, "La chute noire, 25 centimes par personne." But our driver said it was not worth while, as we could see this same chine at free cost a few paces off. The road was interrupted here and there by gates, which were opened by the village children, who received coppers for it. Before a wooden bridge in the form of a Swiss chalet, we were met by a party of barefooted, yellow-haired brats, provided with long branches to chase off the flies, and square stones to put under the wheels on steep ascents. They followed us during a whole hour, waving their branches and singing Tyrolese songs. We plodded on steadily for 3 hours. Having reached the Hotel Eiger, we ordered saddle horses, and went to the glaciers by a narrow way, with the rock wall at one elbow and perpendicular precipices at the other. The rough path was so narrow that we had to ride one below the other, treading a road where a man would have scarcely room enough to pass. The cleverness of our horses bewildered me. One false step would have thrown us headlong into the gap. We could ride no further and had to dismount at the foot of the glacier, where we took a special glacier guide to take us up, and sent our horses to wait for us on the highway. Here the snow mountains rose close on us. Green pasturages had disappeared, and all appearance of summer gradually faded into a perfect winter. The snow began to fall in masses. All presented a Lapland scene. Nothing but snow and ice. The guide, after having provided us with alpenstocks and blue spectacles, made us pass through a damp cavern, the soil of which was mouldy with dew and drippings from the roof. Two shriveled old women, wrapped up in shawls, with lilac cheeks and noses, were singing Tyrolese songs, with tremulous voices, in that grotto, accompanying themselves on the cithern, blowing their purple fingers in the intervals. When we came out of the cavern we saw a group of working men occupied in sawing enormous blocks of ice, which they dropped down the mountain on rails. Now we began to climb to the glacier, which was no childish play. The guide, after pinning up my skirt, led the way. We advanced very slowly, climbing higher and higher, pricking the sharp ends of our alpenstocks into the ice, running the risk of tumbling down into the deep ravines and leaving no trace behind. We had masses of snow to climb over, and large abysses to leap over. Soon greater difficulties awaited us. We had to climb a staircase simply propped up by a snow-block. There was no path at all now, only crevices and precipices. It was chaos, in short. The guide, who had a sure foot, chopped steps with his ice-axe in the ice, and we were hoisted by him from a foothold to a foothold. He exclaimed at the courage I showed, and said I was a capital hill-climber, and called me "Ser brave." In the distance we heard the crash of a downfall of snow. Halfway up we sat down and took a brief rest, our backs against a rock and our heels dangling over a bottomless abyss. The guide insisted upon my swallowing a drop of brandy from a tumbler slung by a strap over his shoulder. It was worth while to overcome all these difficulties to attain the mer de glace, a fairy-like icy kingdom. I was amazed by the vast and lonely beauty of these interminable uplands of ice. We were well repaid for our climb by this scenery of wildest beauty. On our way back we left the road and descended by the rough track to the lower route leading to the Hotel Eiger by a short cut, where we expected to find our saddle horses. But when we had gained the road they were nowhere to be seen, and we had to walk the entire remaining distance to the Hotel Eiger with the sun right over our heads. We got to the hotel red-faced, breathless, and footsore. Our tempers suffered as well as our legs, and we were so displeased with the manager for having given us such careless guides, that we wouldn't take any refreshment at the hotel and hastened back to Interlaken. On arriving there we had dinner brought into our room, and then went straight to bed. It was an unspeakable comfort to stretch my weary limbs between the cool sheets. End of section 28.